All right, hey friends, it's Teen Man, and I'm back, Boroski, with a new video. It's Jason Blaha again, the lifting gym slave, bro. Yeah, he made a new video for us to review. It's crazy. All right, let's review this video. Jason Blaha says muscles need to be worked from a couple angles for maximum gains. That is absolutely untrue. It's not worked from any kind of angle, and I can prove it too. Yeah. And I'll prove it in the beginning really quickly. Watch.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about understanding that when you are doing a given amount of training volume, it is usually a good idea to split that volume across a couple of different exercises if your goal is to grow a muscle. Now, for people who are doing really high training volumes, this seems obvious. People who are doing...
Okay, that is absolutely untrue. I told you, this coach, he's not a coach. He doesn't know anything about coaching. It's been around for decades. I remember, I'm a decade older than him. So I trained in the 70s, you understand me, in martial arts. And they had gyms in those days. They were crude. The real gyms started to come out in the 80s. So yeah, I never was a real, I wasn't a gym rat. I wasn't particular into lifting weights or anything like that. Didn't think about those things, not even as a teenager. I was more into doing sports, doing gymnastics, swimming, and a bunch of other stuff, diving and whatever. Just a bunch of sports. But yeah, so that is absolutely untrue what he's trying to tell you here, and I can prove it. Look, I'll prove it really quick, okay? In the beginning, if you go into I just posted this in my community section, so you could read this. There's some lengthy reports there. So this would be the first one. So this is a much newer one, up to date, 2022. Effects of eccentric versus concentric sports on blood muscular damage markers in male professional players. So they're talking about sports and players. So they say muscle eccentric contractions produce a high degree of damage compared to concentric contractions. Why is that? Well, something you need to figure out. If you're not I mean, you go into the gym and you're not understanding why you're lifting, then there's no point of going there. You're trying to get maximal gains with the least. Look, success is a very short window. Like I said in all my videos, success is a short window. You need to figure out what is successful. Do you want to stay in a job that pays you a minimum wage, a slave wage, $10 an hour? Or do you want to go out there and actually make money? See, that's the question. Do you want to do concentric contractions, which are not particularly associated with muscle damage? And even if you were to get some, it would be very minimal at best. So the maximum amount that you would get is from what? Eccentric contractions. However, during sports practice, training, and competition, eccentric as well as concentric actions appear at different levels. They do. The presence of muscle-specific proteins in circulation is indicative of damage. Okay, that part is not really, these parts are not important. They're talking about sports, volleyball players, dominant eccentric components and stuff. You could get damaged in any sport providing that you're unaccustomed to doing that. Eventually it'll adapt. And I'll explain this too as well. What that force production is people are getting in eccentric contractions. It's a neurological adaptation. Differences in strength after eccentric and concentric training could be due to differences in neural activation. Yes, there's difference in neural activation. That is the difference. The main consensus accepts that eccentric contractions can generate greater hypertrophy. Yeah, but how does it generate greater hypertrophy? Through muscle damage. You damage muscles, greater hypertrophy, okay, than eccentric ones. So we know there's greater hypertrophy in eccentric exercises than concentric ones. This occurs because eccentric contractions induce rapid neuromuscular adaptations. Yeah, see the difference here? I think people don't really understand how to lift weights or what they're doing out there. They're really confused. So, and then they tell you about what these adaptations are. Increased IGF-1 insulin-like growth factor. Why would that be increased in eccentric contractions? Think about that. mRNA expression, proliferation of muscle satellite cells. What else does it say here? Hold on a second. The proliferation of muscle satellite cells and an increase in muscle protein synthesis. There's an increase in muscle protein synthesis. Why is that? Because if muscles are damaged, then protein synthesis has been extended for an entire week and blood levels have been elevated. I've been trying to say this in all my videos since I started my old channel, but people just mock me, they scream, they yell, what's this? What are you doing? What kind of exercise is that? Or why are you talking about muscle damage? It doesn't build muscles. People are so insane out there, I tell you. They have no clue how to exercise. They don't know anything about bodybuilding whatsoever. They just blindly go to a gym. So it says here, however, sustained and intense eccentric exercise may increase the level of muscle damage. Yeah, well, that's kind of obvious. We already know that. And then they talk about muscle protein. So however, okay. This is characterized by an increased presence of muscle proteins such as creatine kinase. So do you need creatine, man? No, because creatine levels are increased in muscle damage. Hello. So lactate dehydrogenase, LDH, and myoglobin MB in blood. At the same time, certain hormones increase as well. Certain hormones will increase in muscle damage as well, because it's a protective effect. There's damage there, including cortisol, which activates catabolic processes. Okay, if that's why I try to explain to you. The catabolic hormone is definitely going to increase because there's some dead tissue there. It's been damaged. It's going to come out to try to clean it up. We want to suppress the catabolic hormone by being in an anabolic growth state, by converting the catabolic hormone to an androgen so it doesn't have to compete with the myocytic androgen receptor. That's why you're never growing. Even if you are getting some damage in a gym, you people are not in anabolic growth state, and then you get this catabolic process. And anti-catabolic actions by controlling protein turnover. So these are issues that you need to tackle. All these parameters indicate increased muscle damage, negatively affecting performance and delaying the time required for what? Optimal recovery. So why does muscle damage negatively affect performance? Because you're in a weakened state. Hello. Well, okay, why is there a delay required for optimal recovery? Well, because you have micro tears. If you cut your fingers, if you cut up your hand, you're going to keep using it. You're going to try to bandage it up and use it, but it's going to be very uncomfortable. And you can keep opening the wounds. They will never heal. See what I mean? So this is quite lengthy. I'm not going to bring it. This was the most important part. I'm not going to bring up the whole thing here. But I also posted a second one below it. Damage to human muscle from eccentric exercise after training with concentric exercise. And this one is even older, from 1998. So like I said, it's been around forever. It is known that a period of eccentric exercise provides protection against damage to muscle from subsequent eccentric exercises. Here we ask, does concentric exercise do the opposite, make muscles more prone to damage? No, not necessarily. No. It is concluded that a period of concentric exercises increases the susceptibility of muscle to changes associated with the damage from eccentric exercise. We have all, man, go to the second part. We have all experienced the feeling of exhaustion and muscle weakness after a period of intense exercise. Yeah. Whenever carrying out particular exercise, eccentric exercise where muscles are lengthened while they contract, we will not only experience the usual sensations of fatigue, but the exercise muscles will become sore the next day. Why are they going to become sore the next day? Now, why aren't they sore that day? Why do they become sore the next day? Because that's the damage part. Anytime you ever got hit or damaged or fell down in the street, notice how the next day you feel really sore the next day when you wake up. Even cutting your finger, it doesn't hurt that day, but the next day you wake up, that fucking cut really hurts. I don't know why that is. It's a delayed something. There's a repair mechanism. There's a delayed pain. The pain doesn't hit you the first day. It's when you wake up in the hospital the next day, the pain really hits you after the accident. Okay, eccentric contractions are involved in all activities where the contracting muscles exert a braking action. That's why I try to explain to you, a braking action. They exert a braking action. Why is that? Because the velocity, the force and velocity is moving faster than the power that you exude. You don't have enough power, so it's a stopping motion, because it's a braking motion from completely tearing the muscle off the bone. Get it? It's in a kind of a weakened state. And so what happens is, now that it does do these stopping motions and it does get this damage and it does repair and remodel stronger, the next time you'll never get an injury. You'll never get injured in those muscles. They should be so resilient now and so strong that even if you were to power lift or do anything, you're not going to pop any muscles or rip tendons or rip biceps or anything like that. They're going to be super strong because they went through repeated bouts of injuries and they got a repair and a remodeling. They're super strong now. I think people don't understand what physically being stronger is, and lifting a heavy weight, physically strong, physically lifting heavy weight, all these things. They don't really understand these concepts in their brain. They just think I'll lift a heavy weight, but with a weak body, and get injured. Eccentric contractions are involved in all activities where the contracting muscles exert braking actions, control motion of the body. So example, knee extentors control the forward motion of the body. When we walk down a steep slope, see, this is what I try to tell you, a steep slope. Other activities involving eccentric contractions include horse riding and skiing. Yeah, skiing, because you're not standing straight up, okay? So they talk about DOMs here again too. They talk about a lot of stuff, okay? While it has been known for a long time that eccentric exercise is followed by what? Delayed onset muscle soreness. That's what it's followed with. The initial event which brings about the soreness remains the subject of debate. Yeah. It's debatable. It's relative, man. But anyway, so let's go back to Jason Blaha's video. I don't want to bore you.
15, 16, 20 sets a week for a muscle, it makes a lot of sense. But a lot of times if we're doing...
That makes absolutely no sense, doing all those sets for a muscle. Just damage it.
Say 10 sets, 12 sets, something like that, and we're training each muscle twice a week. A lot of times people don't think about those things. They come in and go, okay, well, I'm bench pressing for my chest. That should be enough. I'm squatting for my quads, and that should be enough. And for a novice lifter, that is generally...
Look, I will tell you this much. In a damage and a repairing state, people that are younger, it works much better. I'm telling you, it doesn't. They use it in rehabilitation, all that, but eccentric movements. But I'm telling you, as a younger person, that's the time when you really want to build your body. This repetitive damaging and weakening your body and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, as an older person, I find it's extremely taxing. It's extremely taxing on my body. Therefore, that's another thing. Then you need to eat a lot, be in an anabolic growth state, like it said there. But most people are not doing that. And as a young person, your body could take a lot more abuse and repair and remodel a lot better, more efficient than an older body, for sure.
Case, because they don't have a lot to think about.
Your best years for building muscle are your teenage years and up to about the age of 25. After 25, you still have some time between up to 29, 30. After 30, forget it, man. It's just really it's so difficult to build muscle.
Anything for a novice is going to make them grow. Anything that makes them train hard, anything that has progressive overload, that puts a reasonable workload on a muscle, they're going to...
None of those things are important.
Like a weed, as long as they train well.
No, they're not growing. They're not going to grow as a weed, and his are not growing as a weed. And if his are not growing as a weed, neither will you. He's just talking. Talk is cheap, man. Body does the talking, and body says nothing here. So yeah, none of those things that he said are going to work. The one thing that's going to work, muscle damage. That's it. Eccentric. That's it. That's all you have to focus on. Nothing else. So let's see what else he has to say.
Eat enough, get enough sleep. They're going to tend to do well. And most novice
just eat enough and get sleep, and you're going to do well. No, you're not going to do well.
Programs are written very, very minimalist. But as we get a little more advanced, and I think particularly when we are trying to run sometimes not the highest volumes in the world, we do need to remember it's important to split our volume across a couple of exercises that work muscles through different functions, because when you look at the way muscles work, you look at the anatomy, you look at
Man, I'm amazed that this person knows absolutely zero about training, about being a coach. What type of coach knows nothing about eccentric, concentric, the differences, the stopping motions, what it's for, what it does, how does it cause this damage, what is this delayed onset muscle soreness, what is this weakened position that you're in, or what is this protein synthesis is extended for a week, blood levels are elevated during that time for an entire week while you're going through repairing and remodeling, so forth and so on. He knows very little about training. He doesn't even understand the neuro adaptations that eccentric exercises exude as opposed to concentric. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't even know how to find the answers. That's the funny thing. See, I'm more about eccentric, concentric, and real training, but he's like all over the place. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Progressive overload, this, that, something, weird training, something, goofy shit, and he does the same stuff over and over again, repetitively. You're in an adapted state. There's no more adaptations. What's he talking about? Makes absolutely no sense. Even the food he eats, there's no adaptations. Here's the thing. To get an adaptation to be anabolic, you have to keep eating and your stomach starts stretching to accommodate more food. The more the stomach stretches, the more you can accommodate more food, the more you can eat in a seating. That's why you go to buffets, because you can eat a lot there. You can stretch your stomach, and every time you come back, you're able to accommodate more food, driving that hypertrophy, driving that anabolic force in your body to grow. Otherwise, it just will not happen. Those are adaptations. Every time your stomach grows and you're able to eat more, that's an adaptation again as well. See what I mean? These are all adaptations. I think people don't even understand that concept either. There's no adaptation. If you're eating 6 meals a day or 4 meals a day or whatever it is you're doing there, there's no adaptations there. There's no adaptations because your body's adapted.
the research on how different things get recruited, even research on muscle growth,
Why do you think people say they're hard gainers?
does kind of tend to show what bodybuilders figured out 50 years ago.
What did bodybuilders figure out, Blaha, 50 years ago? Please tell us.
And that's, you know what, if we work a muscle from a couple different angles, it does seem to grow a little bit better.
See, if you work the muscle from different angles, it tends to grow. It tends to grow. How the fuck can it? How can a muscle grow? How can a muscle grow from an angle? This is stupid. How many nutrients does an angle have that your body can absorb from this angle?
And the reason for that is that, most muscles are not particularly complex, a bicep or a pec or whatever, but they usually do have at least one of their origins or
They are complex. They are complex. He's stupid.
insertions as a couple different points. Even really uncomplicated muscles like that, if you look at it, like look at the bicep, right? Sure, both heads of the bicep connect at the same point in the elbow, but they don't connect in the same.
It's not the angle that you're looking for. It's the the eccentric. I always get those confused. Concentric, because eccentric sounds like I fuck up. It's the eccentric movement that you're looking for, bro. I'm telling you, this is just worthless advice, worthless training from a coach that is worthless. He's worthless.
Same point in the shoulder. This would suggest
His training is all to look good, to look good on camera. I told you before, real training doesn't look good in the gym. The only thing that matters is results. Can you produce results? I don't care how people look in the gym. I've seen people do some extraordinary weird exercises that looked odd, but I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to maximize something. They're trying to maximize whatever it is they're doing to get whatever it is that they want to get. And so they're trying their best there. And I know sometimes people are trying their best to do it somewhat in a wrong way, but in a right way. Still, muscles always still get worked in a gym, regardless of what that exercise is. People will say, well, he's not doing full range, or he's not doing this, or he's not doing that. Don't care about what other people are doing, but whatever that person is doing, there's work being done. That's the difference. There's work being done. But they all want to look good on camera. So he wants to do the typical exercises and look pretty. Looking pretty is not going to get you results, trust me.
That any movement towards the shoulder might have a little bit different. And so it does kind of make sense when you look at that to say, okay, there might be some slightly different functions.
Real training does not look pretty. Look at Sam Sulik, how he's like fucking screaming and pushing weights. Look at his arm workout recently. He said, I'm moving heavier. I'm moving heavier as well because I'm more focused on the eccentric. He too is probably learning as he's going through, as he's lifting weights, he's learning at the same time. I'm pretty sure he's seen my channel because I focused videos towards him. And he's listening and watching and talking in his videos in his car. He's talking about a whole bunch of things. People telling him to do this, do that, do this, do that. But he knows eventually in the end, you have to reach for heavier weight to cause more damage to the muscle fiber. Now, I'm not saying that all of his muscles are sarcoplasmic. He may be definitely getting some damage in the muscles and getting a repair and a remodeling. I'm not really particularly sure. To me, it looks like sarcoplasmic training, even if he is lifting a heavier weight. That could be neurological adaptations. I'm not really sure what he's getting there.
Involved there. Same thing with the chest. Yes, towards the armpit area where it inserts in the shoulder, yeah, it all kind of inserts in the same point. But that's not true towards the sternum. Right, the pectoral inserts all the way along the sternum from the top to the bottom, across a wide area. And it's the same when you start looking at different muscles through the body. Okay? We look at different muscles through the body. You find this is the case pretty much everywhere. Right? A lot of muscles, on one end of the muscle, have a few different points of insertion.
Okay, here's an example, okay? Here's an example. These pull-ups, you're pulling yourself up on the pull-ups. Well, why not put a box there, stand up on the box, and just do the negatives? Lower your body slowly in a braking action, like I read to you in NCBI. It's the braking action, do you understand me, that will cause the breaks in the muscle fibers. So pulling up is not going to do very much for you, but pulling down will cause more damage in the muscle fibers between the lat area. So yeah, I mean, you're just going to exhaust yourself pulling yourself up all the time. So the best actions are the lowering actions. That's what you're looking for, the negative or lowering action.
2 or more. Or it's spread across a fairly wide area. So it does make sense that some of those fibers are going to have a little bit different functions, a little bit different angles. And if you're just trying to make the muscle grow, not a big deal. But
look, if you're trying to get bigger and stronger, listen to the word. I didn't say stronger and bigger. I said bigger and stronger. Then you want to focus on the negatives doing this. When you do get big and strong, lifting yourself up is going to be a lot easier. You understand me? You don't need to focus on pulling yourself up. You need to focus on lowering yourself, the braking action of the eccentric movement.
If you're going, I would kind of like to get close to as much development as I could out of it. Well,
yeah, the pulling up part is going to fatigue you, so you won't be able to do as many negatives as you would opposed to doing normally, because you're pulling yourself up is fatiguing you. Concentric exercises, they fatigue you. They wear you out fast. Yeah, because you're going against gravity. Think about it. If you're pulling yourself up, what exactly are you doing there? Is there any damage in pulling yourself up in the upward direction? There's nothing going on in the upward direction. Everything on the downforce is everything going down is what's causing the damage. Running down a slope of a hill, negatives on this fucking monkey bar, the downforce on the rows that you're doing for your back. The downforce is not the upforce, is not associated with any damage. The concentric, yeah.
Makes a little more sense to do things that way. And then on top of that, when we start looking at...
But people are lazy when they come in the gym. They don't want to do those things. They do the lazy exercises, throwing weights around up in the air. And then they wonder why they're not getting any gains. And then they look at the other people that are actually putting the work in, and they're like, why is he getting bigger? He must be on steroids. It's steroids. Yeah, man, he's cheating and all that. Bro, I've had people fucking tell me stupid shit about steroids, stupid shit from eating. I've done sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, eating potatoes. I've been on steroids. Yeah, steroids. I've done eccentric exercise movements, negatives, this, that, got massive. Yeah, on steroids, on steroids. And then it makes you super fucking strong, bro, like you can't even imagine. Back in the day when I built my body, I just never knew how strong you could see. I did it because it was an experiment. I finally got there. I reached the goal. It was over. Once you reach the goal, there's nowhere else to go from there. People ask me, why did I stop? I stopped because I reached my goal. There was nowhere else to go from there. Oh, I have to keep proving myself forever? Like no professional sports person has to keep coming out of retirement and proving themselves. Life isn't like that. It's done. It's finished. It's time to find a new goal. Get it? Don't stay there forever.
Different research.
But him, he's here trying to hack at the goal, and he's never achieved the goal. He's there forever, lifting slave.
You find certain exercises, even not just at those points of origin and insertion, we find that some exercises, just because of where the load is managed throughout the range of motion and the joint angles, do activate different muscle fibers at different ratios through different parts of the muscle, right? So even, different types of hamstring curls versus hip hinges, it's been noted that maybe the middle of the hamstring gets worked.
Yeah, you can mix up your exercises. Okay. You may be unaccustomed to doing that. Maybe you didn't do that one. I don't know.
A little bit more than, say, the insertion points down near the knee. The same, with lats and pecs and triceps and all these different muscles. So you have that to think about. Then you have to think about the fact of individual functions. You look at a tricep and go, okay, anything that extends the elbow obviously works, the lateral and medial heads pretty effective.
Look at him throwing the weight up and down. He's using a lot of his shoulder area. He's throwing the weight up and down. I'm not saying that work is not being done. This could be just wearing your body out. He's in an adapted state. You're adapted. You're wearing out your joints. You're wearing out your body in an adapted state. I'll explain this. Man, factory workers are not happy. They're in an adapted state in the factory working every day. They can get arthritis in their spine. They can get stenosis. They can get, tendonitis, whatever you want to call it, carpal tunnel syndrome and stuff. This is how disease comes out. The repetitive motions of doing something repetitively too often will cause a disease. I think people don't even understand that concept. Going to a gym, I know many people going to a gym, they've gotten diseases. And then you're like, well, I thought it was healthy. I thought lifting is healthy. Name me one health benefit of lifting, please. Please, name me one health benefit of this fitness, of lifting, the lifting slave. There are none. You're going to get a disease, especially if you keep coming there chronically lifting. You can get a disease and cripple yourself. I'm not fucking joking, man.
But you need some extension of the shoulder to fully work the long head, which is that bigger head up near the top, near the armpit. Okay, so it makes sense to do some extensions that work that a little bit while pressing.
Yeah, that pulling motion back may be giving him a stretch there. I don't know. But does it really matter if you're adapted at this point? It's in a protective effect. It's hiding in type 1 muscle fibers. Hello?
And it doesn't matter whether...
Like I read to you in there, it says it's protected at some point. Come on.
That's bench pressing or dips or anything else do tend to work the other a little better. So when you're doing things, it starts to make sense to say, okay, I should probably, work all these muscles from a couple different angles, at a minimum of 2. In some cases, it does make sense to work more than that, particularly something like a deltoid that has, a wider variety of functions, right? The deltoid has 3 completely different heads. They all do completely different things, even though it's one large muscle. So in that case, it might make sense to do even more. Right? Fortunately, the deltoid gets used in a lot of different exercises.
So if it's not working for you and you're doing these concentric exercises like what he is, he's always focused on the concentric. So if it's not working for you, just do more of them. Like he says, just do more, man. Just do more of something. Don't work smart, work hard. The people who work hard never make it in life. In this world, you need to work smart. to be successful. Yes.
But a perfect example of the tricep, it makes sense to do a press and an extension of some type if you're trying to really develop the muscle. Things like your back, it makes sense for lats and traps and things to do a vertical pull and a horizontal pull. Okay, it just makes sense. Hamstrings, when you look at the functions of the hamstring, both hip extension as well as flexion of the knee, it kind of makes sense that, if your goal is to maximally develop the hamstring, you may want to do an exercise of each type. The same thing when it comes to pectorals. Because of the wide number of origin points of the pec along the sternum, it makes a little bit of sense, right? It makes a little bit of sense to train a couple different angles of inclination. I personally like to...
Look, I personally think that you could train for an entire month, let's say, or maybe 2 months. So every 2 months, at the end of the month of 2 months, you do a damaging session. You take a little time out and you do a full body damaging session for your upper body, and then do your legs the next day. Then give it about a week to repair and remodel, and then go back being adapted to your exercises again, lifting. You understand me? You can do that so you can get some more growth out of it. You should be a lot stronger lifting those weights, so you'll be able to push a lot more heavier weight and get another adaptation. Get a donation of nuclei, you get some more muscle fibers, get some density, so forth and so on. And during that time, you want to be in an anabolic growth state. That entire week when you get damaged, you want to be in anabolic growth state, so you want to go down to a buffet or somewhere and eat for hours. And I mean eat like crazy the entire week, that entire week. And you'll get a great you'll get an adaptation in size, strength, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So you could even do that every 2 months if that's something you want to do. See what I mean? There's ways around everything in training if you're smart about it.
Do flat and then 45-degree incline, but I'm not saying that's what you have to do. You might be someone who maybe wants a shallower incline and a decline because your lower chest needs more work. Maybe you're someone who really needs a lot of upper chest, and so you might do just flat back benching with a barbell or dumbbells, and then put a...
I guess. I mean, these cable machines, they have a long bar now. It's almost like a bench pressing bar. You can tie it up both ends. You can lean forward, downward with the down force, pushing down and it pushing back up, giving you a stretch in the opposite direction. You can even manage lifting pretty heavy on there. And because there's a kind of a, how should I put it? Both ends, the weights are on both ends. So it's a kind of a balancing act at the same time, right? So this weakness in certain areas, maybe the left to the right, will balance out itself, pressing down on it. I've done them before. They're pretty good. They work. It's all relative, like I said, how you see training to get the benefit of the damage part in your muscle. I mean, it's not based on I gotta look pretty in a gym.
We focus on incline work, but the point is the same. You really should probably work a couple different angles if you're trying to bring that up. Or maybe you really care about the lower chest. Maybe your front delts and upper chest have done well, and you just are not getting that whole lower chest, and so you might even do something extreme on the other end, like a decline and a weighted dip. All right? So again, you've got to look at what's going on, but at the end of the day, we are better off working at least 2 different exercises for any given amount of volume you're doing. And that is what the research has shown, right? The only research that's looked at this, and again, I'm not saying it's the be-all, end-all. Exercise science research in a lot of ways has a long way to go. But...
Exercise, what? Science research has a long way to go? No, it doesn't. They tell you what builds muscle and how to build muscle. Science tells you everything. You just don't know where to find the answers. Your coach here, because he lacks experience. People ask me, how do you know how to find all these answers? How do you know these things? Because I got experience. Hello. I got enough experience. I don't need to be a chronic lifter to have that much experience. I just have to have enough experience to know what I'm looking for. Duh.
even they found in the bit of studies that have looked at this, that if your training volume is split between...
Bro, I've tried every kind of training. Olympic training, lifting, eccentric, concentric, powerlifting. I've tried every kind of lifting, every kind of movement in the gym, you name it. Reverse, forward, this, that. I've tried everything. You become a master at lifting when you don't stay there doing the same thing over and over again. You have to investigate doing other things that you would have never done before. Hello? If you've never done eccentric negatives, I suggest you try them. Instead of your fucking obvious fucking push-ups off the floor like a yo-yo. I gotta do push-ups. Everybody's doing push-ups, but ain't nobody doing no negatives now, are they, out there, right? And a bunch of other stuff. It's not just that. But I'm just saying, for an example, everybody's eating 4 or 5 meals a day, but ain't nobody eating for 6 hours a day down at the buffet, are they? See what I mean? See the difference, man?
2 exercises versus doing all the volume off of just one per muscle.
I'll put it like this. If you're serious, you're going to go all out. But if you ain't serious, you ain't going to go all out. You're just going to talk about it like your coach here on video all day. You get it? That this can do that, and that will do this, and that, and that. And then in the end, he's got nothing to show for it.
You tend to get a little bit more muscle growth, at least according to the limited data that we have.
You do not get any muscle growth lifting a heavy weight. Heavy weights are not concentric exercise, lifting heavy weights are not associated with muscle damage. And number 2, they don't produce nutrients. They're not filled with nutrients, okay, that your body could absorb. They can't build muscles. And chronic lifting doesn't do fuck all but weaken you. And damage weakens you too. But you want to come out of the damage phase a lot stronger. That's the whole point.
So, what does that tell us? That tells us that people's experience in the real world from 40, 50 years ago
your coach here has no muscle. He's just puffy eating carbohydrates. His tofu, his pasta, and other weird foods, okay? He's bloated with carbohydrates. That's what he was talking about in his video. Pumped up with carbohydrates. He doesn't have any muscle. He's an ordinary dude walking down the street, puffy and old with carbohydrates in his body circulating, accelerating more aging. That's about it.
Finally kind of being confirmed by the science, and we have a good idea of why it happens. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today.
Well, I know why it happens because science tells me that, but I don't know about your science, what he's talking about. I'll see you in the next one, friends. Tell me what you think about that. Like, subscribe, support the channel, comment down below. Helps with the algorithm, man. I told you, this guy is not a coach. He's just a waste of time. He's wasting your time. Real coaches can produce results. If he can't produce results, he's not a coach. See you in the next one. Ciao.